There is a massive scandal developing in the D&D community right now, and it has just gotten a lot worse. That's right, the OGL scandal is back, baby. Hasbro have once again taken a decision that has outraged the entire D&D community and made things worse for everyone. And this looks to be escalating to an even worse place as we approach the new edition of Dungeons and Dragons. And I must admit, as cynical, saddened, and ultimately frustrated with Hasbro as I am, I'm still taken by surprise. But I shouldn't have been, because the warning signs were always there. We should have seen this coming. So say goodbye to D&D Beyond and Dungeons and Dragons custom homebrew content, because now we're back in the dark days of Dungeons and Dragons and the OGL scandal, as Hasbro once again are trying to take on the entire D&D community, if they ever even stopped. See, last year Hasbro went through possibly one of the worst moments in its history ever, and we're talking about a company here that secretly enslaved the Irish in order to make Pop-Up Pirate. Not sure if worth. I'm of course talking about the OGL scandal, and during that scandal, Hasbro was absolutely dripping with leaks, and one of those leaks revealed that allegedly Chris Cow, the head of digital monetization and resident boogeyman over at Hasbro, wanted to and had given his team the dedicated mission statement of, and I'm quoting here, destroying Dungeons and Dragons Beyond, which is a pretty insane mission statement, but Chris really doesn't like D&D Beyond, and it turns out he wants it to be gone utterly. So then, that brings us to today, and what just happened this week. Now, if you're not aware of D&D Beyond, firstly, give me your time machine. I need to stop Einstein. I want to do a Command and Conquer. But secondly, it's basically a digital storefront for Dungeons and Dragons. It's the Steam of D&D. Steam, of course, being the Target of video games, and Target of course being the Istanbul Grand Bazaar of Minions merch. As a platform, D&D Beyond basically operates like an online version of your bookbinder, filled with character sheets and campaign plans and D&D content. You can host characters, campaigns, it has all the D&D books on it, all the monsters, and even a full homebrew marketplace where people can share items that they themselves made. It's extremely convenient. That said, it also has the downside of only allowing Dungeons and Dragons content on it. No Mothership, no Call of Cthulhu, everything is D&D only. And as a platform, it's pretty desperate for cash, selling not only books, but also dice skins and subscription fees if you want more character slots. It's basically the world's most picky filing cabinet and filled with microtransactions. So what's not to love? But it's extremely popular. At one stage, it had over 10 million people on the platform. That's a lot of people, or at least it was, because those are the pre-OGL scandal numbers. Yeah, I've no idea what it is today, but you know what? I can promise right now that if I get 10 million subscribers, I promise that I'll make a new version of D&D Beyond with blackjack, hookers, and I'll even support Call of Cthulhu. So, you know, why not subscribe to the channel? Disclaimer, new D&D Beyond version may just be a blank book. Terms and conditions may apply. Now, one of the things that people really love about D&D Beyond is that it is a really easy way to get access to small snippets of content without having to spend too much money, because the system allows role players to pick and choose what they want to buy from the entirety of D&D 5th edition to a ludicrous degree. Want to play an artificer in your next game? Well, you can simply buy an artificer subclass on D&D Beyond, and suddenly you have all the rules for the artificer. You don't even have to buy Tasha's Cauldron of everything. You want a special monster to throw into your party? Well, you can just buy that monster on D&D Beyond and get its rules. Do you require racial feats? Well, firstly, I hope you're in incognito browsing, but also you can buy it separately. Do you crave the Banneret subclass for Fighter and wish to avoid having to pay for the scam that is Sword Coast's Adventurer's Guide? Well, no you don't. Buy something else. You could though, I guess. in theory. This is super convenient, allowing players to customize their characters pretty inexpensively without having to buy a whole bunch of books. You can pick and choose from the entire Dungeons and Dragons library, at least for 5th edition. And this is partly why the website is so goddamn popular, and actually offers a really cool experience for building a character without having to access pirated content or your very own library of all 48 5th edition books. And even better, if you were mad enough to try and build such a digital library of all the D&D books and had previously bought one of these microtransactions, like a subclass or something, when you buy a book with one of your owned pieces of content in it, you'll get a discount. If you spent $10 on an Artificer subclass, then you'd get $10 off when you buy Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Except I think a subclass is like $2. This is really cool and a genuinely pro-consumer feature of the platform, and it has made Dungeons and Dragons more accessible, cheaper to play, and to be honest, just super convenient. It's added so much value to D&D Beyond. So therefore, such an amazing, sterling, uncontroversial, inexplicably perfect feature must be killed. I mean, you remember Chris Kyle's catchphrase, right? Destroy D&D Beyond. He is dangerous. Hasbro have purposefully killed this feature. Just this week, D&D Beyond has been totally redesigned from the ground up to get rid of this. You can no longer buy subclasses. You can't buy monsters. You can't buy racial feats. You just can't buy anything separately. If you want to buy any specific content at all, you now have to buy the entire book that they appear in. So, you know, get ready to cash out for Sword Coast's Adventurer's Guide for your precious, lovely banneret. Again, that's a joke. No one would ever buy that book. As the FAQ on the new D&D Beyond redesign says, a la carte purchases are no longer supported. However, any individual items you've previously purchased will continue to be available for use on D&D Beyond. Gee, thanks, I guess, for allowing me access to my rented content. And that's it. That's all they have to say about the removal of this incredibly beloved and useful feature. To be frank, this really sucks. But hey, don't worry. If you're someone that bought a single subclass from a book before and now you'd like to buy the entire digital book that it appears in later, you can still get that discount. It just isn't automatically applied anymore. You have to physically contact customer service for it now with like a telephone and everything. Something that most people just won't do because it's way worse, and Hasbro know that. They are literally banking on the social anxiety of D&D players. And ultimately, this decision is designed to force people who would just buy content that they need, a subclass here, a monster there, to instead spend more on entire books. But this is a massive mistake. From a purely business side, I know lots of people who use D&D Beyond as a repository and buy tons of individual a la carte content on the platform because they collect the physical books. Or, you know, they don't, but pick up what they need from D&D Beyond when they go to create a character or run a game. Certainly for most dungeon masters, or whales as Hasbro calls them, they don't need entire books to run their games unless they're running a specific campaign. But they will want very certain things, like certain items or monsters or subclasses. And the way that D&D books are sold, a lot of them come with a ton of guff that you just wouldn't really want access to. You'd often have to buy entire campaigns just to get access to very specific items. And there'd be a ton of content in those books that isn't desirable, like specific maps and specific monsters and lore. I mean, do I have to bring up Sword Coast's Adventurer's Guide again? Do I? I really don't want to. And I guess the ironic thing about that book is that there is nothing desirable that anyone wants in that one. And as a result though, I think that a lot of people who have spent hundreds of dollars in D&D Beyond won't spend any more money going forward. Because instead of being forced to buy a book in D&D Beyond just to get access to a very small thing that they want, many people will just not buy anything at all. And this is pretty well borne out in the many Reddit threads and Twitter threads and angry Discord messages and probably Facebook discussions as well. I wouldn't know. That's like the gin alley of the internet. There's lots of people who are mad and frustrated and who say they won't spend any more cash, because this is literally just the removal of a beloved feature. And in reality, it means that where you would spend $2 on a feature for your character, now you'll have to spend $50. It's quite the price increase. And it wasn't even announced. There were no tornado warnings issued here. Instead, it was just quietly dropped by Hasbro. You wouldn't even know about this change unless you read about it in the FAQ, which, you know, you won't, or organically went to buy something individually, which is exactly what has happened. Now, there's a lot of confused people on the D&D Beyond forums and Reddit wondering why such an integral feature is no longer available. And this outrage has been very slow to get off the ground as a result. But here I am, trying to warn everyone, D&D Beyond has just gotten a lot worse. And it's going to get even more worse, especially when we consider the removal of homebrew content from D&D Beyond. This is why I brought up the Chris Kyle leaks earlier, because in those leaks, they also revealed that allegedly Chris wants a $30 subscription for Dungeons & Dragons Beyond, monthly content drops on the platform, and for homebrew to be banned. And while D&D Beyond walked back a lot of those things, already I've seen content creators and D&D Beyond users arguing that these a la carte purchases that we have now lost can instead be replaced using the homebrew section of D&D Beyond. This is the section where users can create and share their own content, and what I've heard is that now people are beginning to replace those official microtransactions of snippet content with unofficial user-made content. You can't buy a certain subclass? Well, just pick up the pirated version in the homebrew section. Sure, you can't buy the Artificer separately anymore, but you can pick up the homebrew magic item building man. Yay! And yeah, I have no doubt that this will happen. Hell, it's already happening. But it wasn't such a big deal before because it used to be pretty affordable to just pick up a feat or a subclass officially. But now it's not. Now it's going to cost $30. So people will of course share extremely similar content on the homebrew section instead. And you know what? I don't really care about that so much. I'd love to celebrate this, in fact, but it raises for me a pretty important question. How long will the homebrew marketplace last on D&D Beyond if it's being used for what Hasbro perceive as piracy? Yeah, not very long. If Hasbro think that people aren't spending money on their D&D Beyond platform because of homebrew content on that platform put there in sufferance of Hasbro, then homebrew will be gone. I'm not even sure if this change is unintentional or if the removal of a la carte purchasing on D&D Beyond is one massive Xanatos gambit designed to give Hasbro a justification to end the entire homebrew marketplace on D&D Beyond. A false flag operation, sort of like not 9/11, but the popular conspiracy theory around 9/11. I mean, we have it on record that Chris Kyle wants homebrew gone, and this is kinda already happening. Reddit threads on this topic are being shut down by mods because they're encouraging piracy. This was pretty predictable. There'll be a huge demographic of people who just had their ability to pick up content on D&D ripped away from them, and they're going to find another way to get it. Piracy is the free market that the free market thinks is too free for the free market, and frankly, I think that this is just the beginning. I'm really worried that things are going to get even worse from here on out, as ludicrous as that is to say, because Hasbro have only owned D&D Beyond for 2 years now, and as such, they sort of inherited a platform that doesn't quite hate its user base, but they're slowly getting it to that stage. There's a lot of features that will likely get dropped going forward in the name of squeezing money from role players. For example, you can still share content with other people on D&D Beyond. That really feels like it has a limited shelf life. After all, why let one person share their $50 purchase with all their friends when you can force that entire group to each spend $50? No doubt plenty of people will stop using the platform if so, but how many? Hasbro will be making 10 times the income on people who stick around, and that's exactly the type of deluded logic that whirls within the homunculus brain of CEO Chris Cox.
Do you even know what a homunculus is? It's one of those tiny humans mad scientists keep in jars.
This is all part of the same machine that led to the OGL scandal, the same incentives, the same decision making. Hasbro are looking at D&D and trying to figure out about what they can cut, what they can make worse, how they can squeeze role players for more money, instead of focusing on making the game more fun, including more people into the game, and just making good content and selling good content for a reasonable price. The end. Geez, that's where it ends. That all said though, it's not all doom and gloom. The OGL scandal showed that when the community comes together and shares its outrage at Hasbro, the corporation must back down. And it has just recently happened again with Sony and Helldivers too. These companies, these massive corporations, they can't get away with what they want to get away with if enough people make their voices heard. So make yours heard, and this is me making my voice heard. Hasbro need to reverse this change and publicly commit to keeping Homebrew up on D&D Beyond. And if you want to support my position here on that, and I hope you do, because these videos, they really do not earn me a lot of friends in the industry, please do check out my Patreon at patreon.com/discourseminiatures. I rely on your support to make this content and ring the bell on this sort of stuff. Also, you'll get bonus videos of reviews for games, including Daggerheart this month, or just subscribe to my YouTube channel, that helps a lot too. Thank you. And a massive thanks to my patrons, especially CryptoKev. I'll catch y'all next time. Bye-bye.